we wanted to talk about something interesting. I have something for this segment. Whenever we start talking about theories or like, well, conspiracy theories and stuff like that, I feel like we needed
X-Files
something.
Music.
Well, so I couldn't do X-Files music because that could get us copyright stricken. However, I got us Michael. Do you ever wonder, in a world where Panini exists and Fanatics moves in next door, poaches all their people, could someone break into their offices and try and steal data? Well, that's the topic of today's story. So anyways,
if you're going to do that, hang on. You have to start with, you've heard this before, in a world where if you start with that is the tone setter. Think about every time you've heard that. It opens the sentence.
Do you know how much I have on my plate right now? I get in, I'm like, oh man, I got to get music going.
Trust me, I know it. Oh, trust me. It's a tough life for 12 hours a week. I'm not doubting that.
Anyway, so Panini break.
I'd like to hear what you have on your plate. This would be nice.
The Panini offices got broken into on Monday, on Memorial Day.
Oh, it was Monday?
Yeah, Memorial Day. Well, so to be fair, that's when police showed up and there was a report. I mean, I guess it's possible that it could have come in Sunday. The reason, you're probably wondering, well, why wouldn't they have already known that? Interestingly enough, alarms were not triggered. And you're probably saying to yourself, how is that possible? Well, that's a good question. I think a lot of people are asking that question because there's some theories going around that it could have been possibly a former employee / inside job. Not to say that they've just got people going around trying to steal information at all times. However, if you are living under a rock, you probably are very familiar that Panini is losing licensing in the next couple of years to a company known as Fanatics. Fanatics has taken a few employees. I wouldn't say taken, but some employees have moved over to Fanatics. There's a lawsuit in place from Panini against multiple of those employees because there were no exit contracts signed. So basically just saying, there was nothing protecting Panini from future lawsuits or those employees for that matter, which is why they're getting sued, because they conceivably could have taken data and there'd be no recourse in that situation. So Panini files the lawsuit, and now we're seeing a break-in at the offices, trying to destroy data and not take anything. Because at the time of this reporting, this is June 1st, we have reports from the police that say nothing was taken. As of that time, they're still doing a full accounting, but nothing seems to be taken. But one thing is for sure, that multiple pieces of equipment were damaged, including computers and servers, which would house potentially a lot of company emails that maybe Fanatics didn't want other people to see. Now, that is a theory that is nowhere near any kind of truth that we have. It's something that's been floated around, and it's just interesting enough that we thought we might bring it up on the pod today.
I will tell you one theory that's floating around, too, that I just think is the dumbest thing of all time. The police report very plainly says there was no theft of physical property, at least, aside from destruction and mayhem, I think was what it was used.
Yeah.
The first thing that came out is, well, this is Panini covering themselves now for not fulfilling your redemptions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've heard this from so many people now. It's the dumbest thing going, because right there, if that was the case, they would have reported a ton of missing stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nothing was reported. So,
and you think they would have that all insured too? So it's like
even if it wasn't, it would be in the report.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that theory is just dumb. Now, I think Panini handles redemptions poorly. There's no question about it. Cards are ending up for sale that are trying to be redeemed. People are waiting forever to get redemptions. It's a horrible situation.
To be fair, that story, since we never really talked about it on last episode, that is being looked into, and apparently Panini has reached out to the people that has happened to. So we don't know anything else. We've tried to get information. We'll still try. So
yeah, I mean, again, but the redemption thing is a total debacle, and it has been for a while now. But this isn't a ploy to cover that up. Like, it just isn't. Otherwise, they would have reported, hey, all of these cards were stolen. There's your cover. Perfect.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, about, like, well, was it a former employee? Well, they didn't do any layoffs or firing at Panini. The former employees all went to Fanatics. So you mean to tell me you got a better, higher-paying job, because from the three I've spoken to, they're all making better money now. They got a better-paying job, and then decided to come back and risk all that to break into Panini to steal intellectual property off a computer.
That is the one thing I do believe is possible. Yes, absolutely. You're not thinking about the fact that if they are one of these employees that are sued or could be sued for leaving, that maybe there were some emails back and forth with Fanatics that would have possibly broken contracts or taken away data.
That's it. I didn't think about that. Okay. I thought it was like they're going to break into steal IP.
Oh, yeah.
That they're then going to sell to.
I wouldn't think they would do that.
Because even that, my think would be, well, Fanatics is not going to buy stolen or an intellectual property either.
Yeah.
But you're saying your theory, one of the theories you think could be reasonable is they went back in to cover their tracks, basically.
Yeah. To be clear, I don't think Fanatics had any hand in this. I do think
what I struggle with too. Yeah,
if you think that there's a possibility that there is a conspiracy theory and it wasn't just some vagrants, in the area, then I think the leading prevailing thought is it was maybe a former employee, maybe even somebody associated with the ones that are being sued, because there's data that could be incriminating.
Okay, that's halfway reasonable to me.
Okay.
Even then, though, how many people are willing, like from the corporate world, without and I don't think most of those people have, if any, have criminal records. Yep. How many of those people are just like, we're going to stage this high-end heist and break in and risk all that?
I agree.
I wonder. The Fanatics thing, I would just say you're nuts. Like, Fanatics is worth enough money. If they were going to do this, you'd never hear about it. So I'm pretty sure there's ways a $30 billion company can do things and not have it be on the news the next freaking day.
Well, so do you remember when I think we were at the Mint when I reported on the story. It was the eBay story where it was known by higher-ups, including executives, of people within the corporation taking matters into their own hands, trying to intimidate people that were basically talking bad about eBay, and it was having an effect, I guess, on their bottom line.
Still haven't showed up at our door. We bash them plenty. I never have those clowns show up over here.
I don't know. There's also vehicles that follow and chase down people.
I wonder if they put the mouse in my house. Is that eBay? Is that an eBay mouse?
Dude, have you even looked to see if how close can you get in on that camera on the mouse? There could be like a robot. It could be a robot mouse.
It's not a robot. Don't be ridiculous.
That's stupid. I'm sorry. It was dumb.
I guess the other prevailing thought I just have overall, 2 minutes, Carlos, is just, here's what I kind of struggle with some of the sentiment in the hobby today. Panini is terrible. They don't fulfill redemptions. They're stealing your cards. Everything's overpriced. Fanatics is coming in and bought Topps, and they're terrible, and everything's mass-produced now, and they're cutting out distributors and cutting shops.
Yes.
Grading's a sham because everything's rigged there. eBay is all shill bidders. There are some people in this hobby who are just not happy no matter what. If you legitimately mistrust all of the companies I just mentioned, you shouldn't be in the hobby anymore. Like, if you think that the fraud is that systemic, just leave. Like, you would be such a fool. That's why, like I said, I've always had trouble with some people who criticize all these things, but then it's like they're still super involved in the hobby. If you really believe that, you wouldn't be. Like, if I really thought the real estate market in Nashville was just totally fraudulent and being propped up by people for their own benefit, I wouldn't be buying properties and selling them like I do.
No,
because I'd be like, hey, this whole system. So I do think, again, this is just another example of I think this is a way blown out of proportion story. Everybody wants to be first.
But it's also a very slow time in the hobby.
It is. Right now. Maybe so that's something to do with it.
Hey, we got something we can talk about.
Even the PWCC thing, not for nothing. Like, Fanatics buys PWCC. Mm-hmm. It doesn't change any thought I've ever had in my head, ever.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Nothing.
It could change going forward, but yeah.
Even then it won't. I sell where I sell and I use what I use. But even that was just like, had to be like all this conspiracy around it and all these guys making video and content around, we knew this was coming. Who cares? What did it change? Sure. The hobby is exactly what it is today as it was if PWCC was still owned by Brett and whatever, him and his wife.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything. I think you're probably right. It's just such a slow time. It's like, man, we got to find something to just make this unbelievable debacle of a story out of and just theorize and all this conspiracy nonsense. I don't know. I'm pretty skeptical about things. The one area here, if you're telling me that some employees who are being sued, there's like damning evidence that was at the office and this was an attempt to cover that up. I could look and say, okay.
Honestly, that's the only thing I can really...
Do I think that's what happened? No. A betting man, no. Is it reasonable? Is it possible? Is it the most likely of all the conspiracy theory things I've heard? Yeah, I'd give you that.
Yeah.
But, like, then that's it. Another thing, by the way, that just came on. Then we'll get to Ken. I know he's waiting. Like, Alt announced yesterday that they had to lay some people off. Mm-hmm. Again, the first thing is like, well, Alt's next. Everything's full. It's a slow economy. We're talking nationally about this whole debt ceiling issue. It is a real struggle in the economy right now for a lot of companies.
Sure.
The sky, like, it's not this end of the world, everything is falling apart, major conspiracy. Maybe the company just laid some people off.
Well, the same thing with collectors. They laid off, 11 people? But I mean,
11.
And they also said, like, we're still very profitable.
Of course they are.
They even hired on some other people. So,
but you know what the headlines were today? PSA is next. Yeah, exactly. PSA is laying people. So what? Maybe those employees were just useless. I don't know. I'm just saying. There are times we really, as a hobby, and us buffoons with microphones, just reach so much for stuff to talk about. It gets a little bit ridiculous at times. Yeah, thank you.
That has been.
In a world where Jesse Gibson is the voice of reason on a popular podcast, it leaves a short man named Michael Giuseppe wondering, is it the mouse or is it something else? We'll be back.